Next question is to Ravi. There are so many different protocols in DIDs. Is it possible to achieve interoperability with DID in the future? If you can just highlight that very quickly.
Sure. So I think, interoperability is going to be a very key aspect. Especially there are different ways wherein the digital identity has been considered to be, becoming interoperable. Universal Resolver has been one of the initiative where, you can resolve the DID methods across any different implementations, across different implementations out there. However, I wanted to emphasize a little bit more on the digital identity that we are talking. I think we are if we are thinking identity is only the KYC information, I think we are not broadening the identity scope, right? When I'm referring to identity, I'm talking about identity in multiple ways, right? So it could be your data, it could be your asset, it could be as simple as that I'm a Mumbai Indian fan, right? So I think those kind of attributes or credentials are also part of the identity. And when we are talking interoperability, in the digital world, we are talking about, this many aspects of an identity. It
Fantastic.
could be your digital assets, it could be your digital data, it could be your consent and so on. And interoperability across different networks is going to be very crucial. And there are various steps that are being created in order to make sure that the data can be easily shared across different networks.
So ma'am, what's your view very quickly, if you can just highlight that this, as Ravi was highlighting, that it's beyond KYC. What's your view on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there are standards like W3C, using which you can create DIDs on different platforms, be it on Polygon, be it on Polkadot, be it on Ethereum or Hedera Hashgraph. You can create DIDs. But what I have found that many organizations have already created it. And if you want to achieve interoperability today using those standards, it's really difficult because, you cannot change your business model. You have already created that product.
True.
So I think the right way of achieving interoperability is the same as how the B2B, it has been done in the B2B space. Like, let's say, if you want to make Hyperledger Fabric and Coda interoperable, then you introduce bridges between them, just like what Musir said. So, so it's the same, I think, is a practical solution in order to achieve interoperability between different DID solutions, so that you are not touching the existing business. So you are just creating mediators.
Correct.
Which can operate
Excellent.
between them to change one format to another rather than changing everything from scratch.
Fantastic. Mushir, you want to take over from here?
Right. And look, identity, for me, what Ravi mentioned is very important, that it's going to be not only about KYC, there's going to be a lot of other elements. And identity can be anything. Your Google ID is now used for check-in and many other places. Right? Your Apple ID is used for verification because there's an underneath layer. So, for example, if it's a Polygon ID, and I know that Polygon ID is trustable ID, then I just need to verify that the Polygon ID is valid. I don't need to verify the underlying data because I trust Polygon to have done the work already. So that provides you an additional layer. I am very conscious about tech inclusion. I do believe in many emerging markets that is left out. And being able to bridge not just between blockchain layers,
right,
but being able to bridge between blockchain and non-blockchain rails is going to be important. So if I don't have a blockchain-based identity, be it a DID or a self-sovereign identity, and I'm just carrying, say, my Aadhaar card, how can I be part of this network and not be excluded, right? Yes, you can then create a layer, but can you do it without having to create a self-sovereign identity is going to be a good challenge that I think we can overcome, but that will be an important element for people who still don't trust digital and still want to maintain some form of physical element. So yeah.
Over to you, Prasanna.
Yeah, I think very good views by Ravikant, Debjani and Mushir. I think there are a lot of attributes of digital identity. Some of those attributes inherently comes to you while you're born, your date of birth, where do you live, what's your name and so on. Then there are some other attributes which are given by government, right? So Aadhaar or PAN. And now these are the third party attributes based upon your interest and based upon where you have really registered yourself, like you have some example like Apple ID or Polygon ID or Google ID. I think as a combination, how user will have a control of a self-sovereign identity. I think that's how will be the game here onwards. Yeah.
We are ending our panel discussion, with couple of questions. Last couple of questions is so Ravi, what will be the role of digital identity security in Metaverse? If you have, if you can throw some light on it, or are there any projects which Polygon is, currently working on?
Yeah, certainly. So, I think digital identity is basically a user gateway, and it's a foundational layer to access and interact with any Web 2 or Web 3 application. And now we are talking about Metaverse. So I think that becomes even more crucial because, we are talking about a totally virtual world where users are interacting. So identity plays a very critical role there. So if I look at from a virtual world, there are different touch points that a user would be doing. And this internally helps in terms of enriching the digital identity for an individual. So for instance, if a user is interacting with several tabs, he's building up his digital reputation.
Fantastic.
This digital reputation also gives access to repurpose this identity for different accesses, airdrops, and events like that.
Right.
In fact, the current world where we are talking about whether a user is whitelisted or he's not a whitelisted, but we don't have a different grades in terms of engaging better with the user. With this digital identity, what we are doing in the metaverse is we are also enabling user engagement at different tiers. So user would be able to access different services and companies would be able to engage with their customers across different levels based upon the reputation that they create.
So, ma'am, if you can just quickly highlight, what will be the role as far as the outlook is concerned in the metaverse?
Sure. So I'll give you a very small example. Like a user is visiting a mall in Metaverse. So user has got an identity, the mall has got an identity, and all the shops within that mall have got their own identity. And if you are purchasing something which is unique, that means all of this whatever items you are purchasing, they would be NFTs and they would have their identity. So that means that everything that you are dealing with within Metaverse would be having their own identity.
Sure.
But that could be much more in future. So I'm just that much I can say as of now.
So actually there are a lot of things that can be done in this space as far as Metaverse is concerned. Mushir, what's your opinion on this?
I agree. I think there's a lot. Metaverse in itself, we put it as one bracket, but there are a bunch of multiple different interactions and different platforms. So virtual worlds and AR augmented worlds, I do see digital identity play a role when let's take Accenture as an example, right? They're building what's called the nth floor on the metaverse, and they're going to be doing onboarding of 150,000 of their employees. So if you want to come on board, you just need your Accenture ID, which is validated, you enter and it's done, right? It's a similar thing for many other enterprise use cases where the identity can play a role, which again, it's your corporate ID. And I think Ravikant mentioned that very nicely, which is it's not only your your personal IDs in terms of your verifiable government IDs, but many other identities that you can use to interact. That's going to be quite interesting. Again, similar stories. People don't understand the metaverse so well. So, being able to showcase protection for them. I think education is going to play a very big role, which is ensuring people know how to handle their identity on the metaverse or any virtual platform will be very key to safeguard their identities, because that could be easily reused and replicated very quickly with somebody else. And there's no control because somebody in other part of the world may be using it potentially if they get the details. So you want to make sure that people are able to use, have their own keys that protect them well. Yeah.
So education will play a vital role.
Absolutely. I think if you go back in early 2000, right, the way we used to create a lot of Yahoo Messenger IDs, right? It wasn't liberty to play around that, right? And a lot of fake profiles. Even at social media also, we have seen the challenge of fake profiles and so on and so forth. So while we are entering into Web 3.0, as Ravikant and everybody has said, it's very, very crucial how we are entering in a pure way, better way. I think that is how better digital identity, good digital identity on a metaverse will be very, very helpful. Primarily, we are a bit far from actual metaverse use cases, right? There is a lot to do. I think with the 5G adoption, quantum computing, I think that will be an actual reality. But while we are entering into that virtual reality kind of exercises, I think we should have to have a better, interoperable, good digital identity ecosystem.
So Ravi, as we are talking about this aspect, I'm talking about NFTs as a broader market, and we have seen a boom in this segment in 2021. So as far as digital identity is concerned, we are, as far as NFTs are concerned, so we are talking about phygital, aspect of this NFT. So what's your view? Is there any aspects you want to touch upon, or any projects you are undertaking as far as your the Polygon initiative is concerned?
Sure, there are several of them, and I think without giving your name, primarily I talk about the use cases, the way they are evolving. So, for example, it is again going back how we can make the customer engagement more interesting. So, for example, as NFT holder, let's say if I hold 5 board apps, finger crossed in the previous price rate, if I'm holding those five board apps, how can I be given a privilege access to, let's say, an airport launch, right? So I think those are again, very interesting use cases where, let's say, I'm holder of those 5 board apps as an identifier, but I'm not even disclosing it to the airport launch. Still, I'm able to prove that, yes, I have these 5 NFTs and I get certain accesses, right? So I think there are very interesting use cases that are coming out where, we are trying to leverage basis the NFTs that are involved. How can we provide better engagement with the customers, whether it is the shoe that are being sold along with the Adidas launching their own shoes, but along with that, they are also launching NFTs, which gives user again to show off that they hold this particular new model shoes, which are limited in numbers, let's say only 500 of those shoes. And then again, flaunting those shoes in the Nike enabled metaverses.
So Ravi, as we are talking about, this 5 board app yacht, NFTs, which you spoke about and the access in the airport lounge. But since if you are holding a 5 board app yacht, NFTs, you are already rich. You don't need any kind of shops, as far as airport lounges are concerned.
I mean, certainly freebies are anyways invited.
Yeah. I was just kidding. Yeah. All right. So moving on, last question to you, ma'am, is NFT and this, the phygital thing which we are talking about. Is there any aspects you want to touch base upon?
Yeah, I mean, that could be NFTs related to identities. I'll give you an example of maybe, that could be more use cases in future, but for as of now, let's say there are 2 organizations who are entering a deal of collaboration, and out of that collaboration, certain NFTs are generated, just like shares as of today, right? Shares are generated. Each share is different. So each share is an NFT, and that can be sold in the market just like shares. So identity is handled here, and also NFT is handled here. This is a potential use case, but there could be many, much more. So perhaps with time we will come to know.
Mushir sir, what's your quick take on this?
Well, like NFTs, everybody loves NFTs, but I think not everybody is going to have the value jump that a Bored Ape Yacht Club has or the CryptoKitties has. And then there are crashes now, right? We're seeing that with quite a few of the NFTs. But yes, identity, I mean, concerts is something that somebody mentioned here, or, going to football games or anything else, right? Now you have that as a verification. You're part of that club, right? Quote unquote, and you can then utilize that as you build forward. So NFTs, there's a lot of hype around art and collectible NFTs. For me, the real future of NFTs lies in real asset verification. So for example, your properties or any other transactions that you want to do, that becomes an NFT, or as we mentioned about concert tickets or membership clubs. And if you are going to tie a digital identity to that from a blockchain perspective, that becomes a combined element, right? So you don't have to validate anything else, but being part of that special club. That's your ID card. The NFT is there for you to process that. So the NFTs themselves could be your identity in some senses, and then you could create a layer that is a consent-based layer on what details need to be shared from the NFT about yourself.
Yeah, I think a wonderful discussion today. I think last but not least on NFTs. I think NFTs has made a lot of noise in last couple of years. But I think we yet to look at what all those prominent use cases can really helpful for every citizens out there, with attached with a better digital identity and the use cases. The one we spoke about with Debjani, or the real use cases, which is backed by some real asset. How fractionalization of real estate could be, or bonds. I think there are a lot of use cases coming up. But I think what NFTs bring on advantage is that it's secure. We can trace the way you will not able to do that in the Web 2 world. I think that's the future all about. But we need to see how efficiently we can implement NFTs. Yeah.
So one last question, as we're talking about digital identity, moving away from the digital identity, my last question is to everyone. To begin with, Ravi, we have seen a broader carnage in cryptocurrency market as far as the market prices are concerned. We have seen this Luna episode and the damage it has done to investors. Is there any advice you want to give to our viewers, how they should deal in such situation, and what is the way forward from here on? Ravi, if you can just highlight that.
Yeah, I mean, irrespective of talking about the price speculation, I would say that, unlike what happened in 2020, 17 or 2018, right, when there were a lot of paperware instead of the real use cases or the infrastructure that we now see, I believe this technology is going to sustain. We would see that a lot of it would go out of the road, but we would see more mature use case coming out. There are a lot of infrastructural things that has gone up. the technology is more matured. So, I mean, from our perspective, we are very bullish that this time period would give us to come out with more solid use case and fundamentally make Web3 story more stronger.
Very quickly, top 3 things to look going forward. What's your take on that?
I think digital identity certainly comes on top of it. User interaction has to improve, and that user experience is very important. And third is educating the users to move from Web 2 to Web 3.
Ma'am, what's your quick take on the crypto market as far as the volatility is concerned? And is there any opinion about the Luna episode which happened? And you want to suggest anything for our viewers?
See, the thing is, I'm a solution architect. I do not trade in crypto, but we use crypto because if we are working on a blockchain layer on top of others, then definitely you have to think about now how the market is going, where the market is moving towards. So perhaps it's not the right question for me because I'm more towards the technical side of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Mushir, is there any opinion you want to give about the episode which happened and we have seen a broader market sell-off? What's your view?
Look, there's been a lot of conversation around here, but the key element here is I'm not going to talk about whether stablecoins or others need to be issued by private parties or by central banks. What is very important in this episode is due diligence, right? And governance. I think that's two key things that come through.
Perfect.
One, in terms of due diligence and understanding how they work. Algorithmic stablecoins are not an easy concept to understand, whereas fiat-backed stablecoins like USDC or USDT Tether are more easier to understand. So you're doing your due diligence in terms of understanding what's happening, what is the process in place, what will be the governance. And secondly, when I said governance, in terms of looking at where is the money, do they really have it? Is there audit done, etc., is going to be fundamentally important.
Fantastic.
We talked about why blockchain was started and why crypto started. It was about trust, right? There's an element of how can you build trust without needing intermediaries. And this is another element where you need to be able to trust that. Where I think some of the stablecoins have failed is to show that transparency in their end-to-end transparency and where the holding is, etc. Saying like Tether came out saying, we cannot disclose where our treasury holdings are, who's holding it, etc. But that should have been something that's fundamental to this ecosystem is transparency. And so going forward, I think when you are looking at the crypto markets, ups and downs are part of the market. This market is up hundreds of percent as compared to a couple of years back, but 50% down or 100% down. 70% down for a lot of the cryptos in the last 2 weeks. So it's a high risk asset class. If you want to invest in it, do your due diligence, read up, don't blindly trust. Greed is not going to take you anywhere. If you are somebody who believes in blockchain, etc., then you're not investing in these tokens for speculative elements. You want to own these tokens for the utility they provide, right? Like we're talking about Polygon identity. So if you want to own the Matic, you're looking at that so that you can enable activity on the Polygon blockchain. So you should be aware of the utility element rather than the speculative element.
Yeah, I think very good views at the end of a discussion you spoke about, Luna. Just imagine that these kind of events are occurring on a daily basis. What's going to happen to that particular crypto industry, right? I think that's how we need to look at how banking industry operates, right? It's quite regulated. Anything happens to your money, it's well taken care, right? I think crypto industry or crypto exchange need to learn a lot, right? What Mushi spoke about the governance aspect, right? Or a compliance aspect. How do we manage the dispute kind of aspect? I think there is a lot to do while technology is gearing up and technology is improving day by day. I think processes, compliances, governance also another part which a customer needs to learn. These are also important, and as well as those service providers who are offering those cryptos or crypto exchanges, they need to also learn that these are the important aspect apart from trading and all, right? So I think they need to learn from some of those regulated entities. The beauty of technology remains out there, but with the better compliance, better regulation, I think we'll not really have that kind of incidents again and again on a daily basis. Yeah.
So beauty of the technology.
To add one thing here, I totally agree with you. The utility is something that we should be concerned about. Like let's say that I worked with a couple of projects in Switzerland for their money market where the banks are actually working in different currencies and they are converting their money from one currency to another, and they're using Ripple for that. And you can convert that within 3 seconds. So it doesn't matter what is the price of XRP, which is the Ripple's cryptocurrency, whether it is very high or very low, it doesn't matter because you are using that cryptocurrency network for only 3 seconds. So the fluctuations doesn't really matter. So one needs to understand that how exactly you are using that blockchain or that particular crypto as a utility rather than speculation.
So that's the word coming in from our panelists, that digital identity, as far as its outlook is concerned, there are a lot of work that has to be done as far as this project is concerned. Thank you so much, Ravikant Agarwal, for being on our show and educating our viewers about this technology and its way forward. You spoke really well about broader technologies that are actually, you guys are working on, and the initiative as far as digital identity is concerned. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Debjani Mohanty. You spoke really well about the Earth ID initiative, and you gave a broader perspective as far as digital identity is concerned. Mushir Ahmed, thank you so much as far as, the broader view you have given as far as the entire market scenario is concerned, and a broader view on the global aspect as well. Thank you so much. Prasanna Lohar, thank you so much for organizing this. Your last words on that.
Thank you so much, Ravikant, Debjani, Mushir. They are global influencers. Through this series, we look forward to bring on many more influencers and educate all of our viewers on actual Web3 and blockchain technology and relevant use cases. So thank you so much once again, Crypto TV, for bringing this episode. As usual, wonderful job.
So digital identity is very crucial as far as Web3 is concerned. Investors should always look for a better opportunity and way forward as far as their personal data is concerned, because digital identity has a long way to go. Thank you so much for being a part of this panel discussion. This is Manoj Dara signing off from Crypto TV. Thank you.